Hello, and welcome to another podcast of More with Murders. And today I have two very special guests. You guys can say your name.
My name is Shortcake.
My name is Strawberry Shortcake. And my name is Ken from Barbie.
And today we're going to be talking about the Malaysian airline flight that went missing. It's going to be a special segment on this episode. It's more of a mystery type of unsolved mystery rather than crime. So that's what makes this episode so special. So you guys can start off by telling me a little bit of the facts. We're going to lay down the facts right now.
Okay, so the MH370 was a plane that left off Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur to go to Beijing, China, but it disappeared before it could ever get to Vietnam. So it never made it past the control point.
That's correct. And not only that, right before, from one control point to the other, there was a sort of kind of like this gray zone where it disconnects and then it reconnects to the other one. And at that point is when they actually lost control and lost contact with the plane.
Right.
Yeah. The last contact with the plane was made by the pilot, who is remembered by his iconic phrase, "Good night, MH370."
According
according
to the Malaysian government, it picked up on its radars that the plane went around. We don't know if it's a fact because, but that's what it picked up, right? On the radar, that it turned around and that it literally just did a U-turn past Malaysia and then went down,
You don't know that.
Well, actually, we don't know that.
Yeah.
But went down to Australia. Now, we are not sure, right? Because we have information that for some are factual and for some are theories, For Strawberry Shortcake, it's a theory,
Right.
But for Ken, it's a fact, but we're not sure.
Right. Yeah. And it was also said, I feel like, I don't know, how many people did it say that went missing? Around like 299?
237?
It was 237. 12 people were crew members.
Oh, no.
Including the pilot,
Including the pilot.
And it's crazy that any error could have happened because some people think that it was an error, but I don't think that's the case since the pilot was someone with experience. So I don't think, I think he knew what he was doing when he did that U-turn, whatever his reasons were. He was aware of what he was doing. I'm not blaming the pilot, and honestly, I don't believe it was a suicide or a mass murder done by the pilot, like one of the theories, but obviously maybe he was threatened to do that, or he didn't have any other choice. He was looking for help. But when somebody is experienced on a subject, I don't think those kind of errors can occur.
Yeah. Like at that point, anything could have happened, but we don't know about it because it's unsolved, which is very sad.
Yeah. And to add to her, because to her point, like, it could also be a theory, all that the government is saying, because it was never confirmed. They never showed evidence to anybody, It's just the government saying, oh, look, our radars, And it could have, like, the moment, like, it lost signal, it could have gotten shot down. It could have just fallen. Anything could have happened.
And didn't they find, like, a piece? Sorry. Didn't they find, like, a piece of the airplane? Was it?
Yeah.
That's suspicious. That's suspicious because there was this guy, I watched the Netflix documentary, and there was this guy who was magically pulling out pieces of the plane everywhere. Like, literally, every beach he went had a piece of MH370. And what are the odds that nobody has been able to find anything? And this guy just finds it right there.
Okay.
Like, and the thing is that the pieces he found didn't have the identification that they put on the planes, so they couldn't even identify that was MH370. They just assumed that was MH370, and they wanted to make people believe, oh look, here's the plane, we found it. So like, stop complaining or stop protesting about it, like, especially for the families who have been for so many years without knowing what happened to their relatives, because there were kids there, there were parents, they were mothers, husbands, wives that are missing, and they're being missing for 11 years now. 11 years, because that happened March 8th, 2014.
Something.
Yeah, 9 years. Like,
yeah,
give or take.
Like, it's
yeah.
And this whole thing blew up thanks to a documentary that Netflix came out with. Like, it really brought back that, and it's crazy because, okay, so we have two different theories. Nobody knows exactly what happened,
Right.
My theory is that the pilot, the moment he went from right before he got to which country was it that he was gonna
land in Vietnam, but he never made it there.
Okay, when he was about to reach Vietnam airspace, that they were gonna contact him, he disappeared. My theory is that the Malaysian government was right. They picked up on their radars that the plane did a U-turn and just went all the way down to Australia, right? And just crash landed there, because there is the evidence that they have found pieces of the plane along the beaches, and there's this satellite company that tracks airplanes, that what it does essentially is it sends it a signal, and it does a handshake. This is where you send it a signal, and then it sends a signal back to you, and it tells you, hey, are you there? Yeah. Hey, what's your location?
Okay, but Mario, what are the odds that somebody finds pieces of a plane that nobody has been able to find?
Like, it could have been fabricated. Yeah, it could have.
Exactly.
It could have been fabricated. And one thing, I'm going to play both sides here. One thing that I agree with her is, like, first off, the Malaysian government, right? They they're good friends with the US. They're not enemies of the US.
Right.
And that satellite organization, also works for the government, not only for commercial planes, but the government, especially the United States and UK government.
Right.
Right. So here's the thing. On that plane, and this happened in the documentary, and this is what Strawberry Shortcake says. On that plane, there was a suspicious cargo that, for some reason at that time, right? Normally they scan cargoes, but for some reason at that time they didn't scan it, and it was labeled like radio equipment, and it was going to China. And at that time, there were two U.S. essentially, what they were saying was there were these two special planes that had a huge radar on top. They could see everything basically and jam their signal. Yeah. So there's a theory, and if you want, that was the one the reporter was saying. You remember?
That wasn't a reporter. That was the French lady.
Yeah, she was a reporter.
Yeah, Edmondo. She was a journalist.
Oh.
Yeah, I got an understanding that there were a bunch of journalists that were really in depth into it. They were into investigating it, finding it out, reporting it, and it was all I think some were dead ends, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, or they're still looking at it. I don't know. For a whole airplane to go missing and then a bunch of people to not, be found, it's it's kind of weird, kind of sus. So
yeah. I agree with you. And just that, there are two main theories, which is the one the government tells you, that, oh, it did a U-turn and then went back down. And the other one that there's also evidence for.
Honestly, I think that governments, and I'm not going to specify any government, but I think, for instance, organizations such as the FBI and intelligence companies, intelligence organizations, they already know what happened to that plane, because there is no way that plane vanished. It just doesn't happen. So I believe that the government officials already know what happened to that plane, but they don't want to disclosures to us because of what it could mean. Because obviously, whatever happened, it wasn't an accident and was premeditated and planned by somebody else.
Right.
So, I honestly think that the only way to find out what really happened is maybe 10 or 15 years from now. I don't know. The truth will come out because somebody pushes this organization or this country or this government behind it all against the fences, and they don't have any other choice but to talk and tell everybody the truth. Because just imagine how hard it must be to be the daughter of some of the people missing there.
Exactly.
It should be devastating that you can't even, because for them, even though so many years have passed by, many of them would still have hope to find their parents or their friends alive, and they don't even have a body to bury.
Yeah, I think another thing that I also looked into is that apparently the flight control, I think that's what it's called, was also shut off, so like nobody could even tell where the plane was exactly.
Yeah. So what happened there is that, let's say you're going from US to Cuba, and before you reach Cuba and the US, right? Once you get transferred from the airplane tower, like the towers in the airports, you get transferred from one tower to another. But before you do that, there's like a couple minutes, a couple distance that you're not in any tower, you're like going to the next one. It's kind of like crossing county lines, Sometimes you're like right in the middle and it's like, oh, whose line is this, Kind of like that. And that happened. And at that moment, they disappeared. It was so convenient, like to add to what, Strawberry Shortcake was saying, that it was very convenient. Like out of every moment to disappear, it disappeared right there when it was switching from, airplane towers. So there could be that theory that like, hey, look, and the investigations were done by the Malaysian government, by the US government, by the Australian government. Like all these governments are friends, like they have good relationships, so they can fabricate anything.
Fabricate, conspire, and anything within themselves. That is very, that's interesting.
So we really don't know what happened.
And we might never find out.
Yeah.
Because even though there is freedom of the press, if they don't want to disclose the truth, like the only thing we can do is talk about theories. But for instance, there is nothing. And I don't know, it's just, the thing is that, many people will be scared of traveling in the Malaysian Airlines because a few years after that happened, another plane was crashed or it exploded. And that one was flying from Russia.
Yeah, like they shut it down in Russia.
Yeah, because it was getting to Ukraine. I don't remember pretty well how it happened, but that was like another theory that the Russians did it because there were two people who were Russian on the plane that night on the MH370. So they think that the Russian abducted the plane and somehow got in this room that had like all the communication centers of the plane, and they shut it down and nobody noticed. Honestly, I think that's the craziest theory, but still, like, what are the odds that from the same airline another plane gets in an accident like that? So for people who travel a lot from Malaysia or who have to take their airline, I will believe it will be like they'll be scared all the time, praying for their lives so their plane can make it to this destiny. Because just imagine.
Also, there's from that theory that the plane was shot down, like it got jammed by like a military plane, and then it got shot down right there before it even did a U-turn or anything. To add to that theory, there was a website that dedicated itself. It took a huge satellite image of the entire, I think it was the South China Sea. Was it that?
Yes.
Yeah. The entire South China Sea, right? Pixel by pixel.
Yeah.
And it was a website you go on and they give you one pixel out of, I don't know how many billions, I suppose, or trillions. I don't know how many pixels there were. And you analyze them, right? To see if you find a debris. And there was a lady that found it. She found a debris that matched the exact plane. It even had the logo of the same
Malaysia Airlines.
of the Malaysian Airlines. And she sent it to that company like, hey, look, I found the plane. And they never reached out to her.
They never spoke about it. It's just like they ignored her.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing that they're ignoring the facts. Like they don't even mention her. And she appears like saying multiple times, I even look up her Twitter account and I will encourage you to do the same. And up to this day, she's posting pictures of what she found in the South China Sea. And she's saying, the plane is here. This is the proof. Why don't you want to see it? It's right there. She still hasn't given up.
Yeah.
Do you know what okay, now that we're talking about, like, we're like, basically all of these are theories. Nobody knows the fact.
Right. We just know that. Yeah, go for it.
The government basically said that it did a U-turn, right? Because of the radars, right? And then the other company, the company that tracks planes through satellite, right? Said that it went south.
Right.
Down after it passed Malaysia, it just went south. And it just kept going until it ran out of gas in the Australian airline. I mean, next to Australia, in the Australian Ocean, next to Australia. And this could be true because of the parts that washed up. But here's the thing: it could also be fabricated by a government. Like the lady sent them the picture. They could have been like, "Oh, there's the plane." They grab the plane and then they send it over there, some way or another, like with cranes or something, or a helicopter or whatever. So I'm not 100% sure.
No, yeah. I think at this point, like, not everybody is like 100% sure what happened. For an airplane to just disappear like that, I think it's just one of those cases that we don't hear very often. And this has been popularized in history for probably it's going to be for a very long time since it's been unsolved. And even up to now, even though we have tidbits of people coming in through Twitter, social media, trying to find it.
I don't even know what to tell you. Like, to be honest, like, me and Strawberry Shortcake have different opinions, But we, like, she thinks, what happened was that they jammed, their radars. And
I have never said I think that.
Oh my God, what do you think?
Okay, so I don't want to assume anything, but I think that, as I said before, what happened was already planned from the moment the plane was taking off, or even before. They already knew that the plane was taking off from that airport in
Kuala Lumpur, something.
Kuala Lumpur. And the time and everything, and they didn't care about how many civilians' lives are gonna be lost. I don't know what governments were involved, but for sure, after this many years without an answer, I think that at least one government must have been involved in this tragedy, because it's not possible for something as big as a plane to just disappear. For instance, look at the Titanic. Okay, right now it's not the biggest ship ever, but 100 years ago it was. And even after it sank, they could locate it. It's in the Atlantic Sea, in the Atlantic Ocean, my bad. It's right there. Yeah. People have gone diving and they've seen, like, pieces, and they've been able to recover art pieces that were left there. And that was a big ship, a big object. So how come that they can find a ship and they knew 100 years ago exactly the location and everything, and they can't locate a plane?
Right. Yeah.
So I just think that there must be some governments involved on what happened to that plane, and because of this government is so powerful, or these governments are so powerful, they control everything, and they just don't want a disclosure to us what really happened. And we will never know until something happens and we take over them. I don't know, we push them against the fence and force them to talk, and then maybe they will tell us the truth, or at least part of the truth. But honestly, I don't think the pilot did it, because first off, his crew, or members that have been in his crew before, gave an interview and a statement when everybody was accusing the pilot that no, it wasn't the pilot, that the pilot was, you know, a kind person. He didn't seem to have any mental issues or any problems going on. Even his family was offended by the way the media and the government was referring to their brother, their son, and so they just don't seem that as a they don't even think that's even a possibility. And many say that what they found, like the VR game, because they found in the pilot house like a VR set, you know, to just practice flight. That had like the same path. Like the plane left, and then right in the middle of the South China Sea, it turned back until it ran out of fuel and disappeared in the Indian Ocean.
Okay.
So many say that was planted there to accuse the pilot, to incriminate him of something he didn't do. And I don't believe he did it, because when there are so many people talking good for him and defending him, that shows that he was a good person in life. So how comes a good person twists his personality to assassinate 237 people? It doesn't make sense. And not only that, he even has a channel on YouTube where he helps others. Like, if you need to fix something, he tells you what's the cheapest way to fix it, and he gives you some tips, and he was always trying to help others. So I don't think a person like that can harm anyone.
I completely disagree. You know, I disagree. Like, I understand where she's coming from, but I disagree. Like, at the fact that the pilot's completely innocent, right? I think there's some probability that the pilot could have done it, right? Because the pilot, on top of the fact that the pilot was very political, like he would go to political meetings and everything, around that time, the person he was supporting lost in the elections. So he was mad, you know, he was mad. He had beef with the whatever. So he was mad, and it's not a coincidence that in his flight simulator they found the same exact path,
because it was planted. It was planted there by somebody else.
Excuse me. And now he told me. Excuse me.
Okay.
But I also understand where she's coming from, because all of that, the flight simulator, right, happened. They said that years later, and it was after they sent it to the FBI. So it's kind of like, why are you saying that now? Like,
actually, no, they found it around the same time.
No, they found the flight simulator?
No, they found it around the same time. They were.
Are you sure?
Yes, because so when the flight went missing, they broke into his house, right? And they found the flight simulator, but they couldn't log in their computer, so they have to like
take it to the FBI.
Yes. And then when the company, the satellite company, described the mathematical path that the plane could have been taken according to mathematics, it was when they said, oh, we could hack into his computer. Look, this is the flight. This is his last flight simulator thingy. Look, he did exactly the same as the mathematicians are saying. So obviously he is guilty. End of the case. That's what they did.
Okay. I understand where you're coming from, right? And you have a lot of, like, I understand. Okay. But I'm saying that there's also a possibility that the pilot, could have done it. But at the same time, I also understand where she's coming from, because all of the other facts, right?
Right.
Because the satellite radar transmission, anybody could have seen it on the computer. You go right now on the computer, it shows you all the flights that are happening, But the moment that thing disconnects, you can't see anything. The only people that can tell you what happened are the governments.
Right.
So she also has a point in the fact that, the government can literally say anything, right? It could have said that it did like a bunch of flips in the air and everybody was going, what? And they find the evidence, so it's true. We don't know. So, yeah. Those are like two of the most popular theories. Yeah, because in the documentary they go like a whole episode, right?
Yeah, but I haven't said that I agree to any theory. I have my own theory. You just believe what they tell you. We're different.
Different opinions.
So different, bro.
Yeah, no, we are,
So point of the fact is that this was a Malaysian the Malaysian Airline Flight 370 that just disappeared between the span of March 8th, 2014. And around, I kind of looked it up, but 277 people disappeared, in which Elizabeth was correct. 12 people were the airline crew. All right. And yeah, to this day, this disappearance has remained unsolved. So now we'll get into our own theories and what we think, our own opinions. They're not the facts. Nothing's put out there. This is nothing that's confirmed, but our own opinions. All right. So I'll probably say, I'm going to start off. I think it's probably an inside job. Like within, like there was definitely someone inside and like who did all the planning. Maybe it was a passenger just kind of like, undercover from another country or whatever, trying to mess another country over. I think that's like one of my opinions, but I know a lot of people can disagree. So and you guys can go and say your own theories.
Okay, Barbie, go.
Ken, okay.
Barbie.
I'm from Peru. My name is Ken. Okay, so I agree with you. No, you're good. Okay, I agree with you with the fact that it's a possibility that it's an inside job. And the thing is that even in the documentary, right? They only give you those facts. Afterwards, they just bring people to do theories as well. Like like the majority of it is theories and speculation because you don't really have much facts. You gotta believe the government, right? Or you can either just believe like other kinds of evidence. Like, okay, yeah, there's the government, and then the fact that it washed, like pieces are washing on shore, right? But there's also the theory that, hey, look, this lady found the plane in the ocean in the South China Sea and nobody said anything, nobody did anything. There was never an explanation.
What's your theory?
My theory?
Cover.
Oh my God, I don't know. Like I
think yeah.
Okay. I believe that the plane, crashed next to in like the ocean in Australia, right? But at the same time, I think it's there because the pieces are there. But I don't know if the pilot flew it there or it was put there by the government, or pieces were put there by the government, and it crashed in the South China Sea where the lady found.
So essentially, like everything was kind of planted to look, I don't know, kind of weird. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I get that. I could be on board with that. That could be kind of, again, screwing over another country, but and go ahead.
Yeah.
Strawberry Shortcake.
I think there is something we all three can agree about, and it's that whatever happened to the plane was because of political reasons. So my theory is, like, I don't know what government was involved in this tragedy, but for sure, they didn't want that plane to arrive to its destination. That was why they did everything they could to wipe it off the planet. And obviously agencies such as the FBI already know what happened, because there is no way they shouldn't know by now, but they just don't want to disclose it to the public, maybe because it's not in their best interest. But I do believe that someday, somehow, the truth will come.
That's very good.
Then,
yeah.
To add to that, what you were talking about with it's a journalist, right? With the journalist who was looking at the cargo and everything and found those radio equipments, that weren't scanned at all or anything, right? It could have, and they were being sent to Beijing, the capital of China, where the government is. So what I think is that there was some cargo in there that wasn't supposed to be there, and another country realized that, and took action to prevent that cargo from going from point A to point B.
Oh, there could have been something very secretive within the plane. That's a very good theory. I also I actually read this theory online, but I want to see what you guys thought about it. That apparently that the airplane could have been shot. Now I find that very hard to believe that it could have been shot, but hey, people have their very outlandish theories. So, what do you guys think?
I honestly believe that anything could have happened to the plane. I don't know for sure what was it, if it crashed, if it ran out of fuel intentionally. I have no idea, but I think anything could have happened. I just know that somebody important and powerful did it. But as far as what happened, I think anything could have happened. Honestly.
A bigger person was behind it. That could, that sounds very, very plausible indeed.
Yeah. And there's also that picture of the plane, that's in the South China Sea.
Oh, yeah.
There.
So.
No, go ahead.
All right. All right. Oh, hold on. Damn, I forgot I was recording on my phone. All right. So, those conclude our theories. They're not real. They're not the facts. And thank you guys so much for being on this episode. I really appreciate it. And
thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Not a problem. Bye.
Bye.